Welcome to Washington Today on C-SPAN Radio for Tuesday, December 31st, 2024. New Year's Eve celebrations underway around the world and in space. In Washington, it is still not clear whether House Speaker Mike Johnson will have the necessary near-unanimous support of House Republicans on Friday with the start of the 119th Congress to continue as Speaker. The incoming Senate Republican Conference Chair, Tom Cotton, discusses what to expect in the next Congress when it comes to confirming judges nominated by President-elect Donald Trump. Plus, we'll have a C-SPAN 2024 Year in Review video compilation. Story from the American Bazaar magazine. For over a century, the New Year's Day reception at the White House was the highlight of Washington, D.C.'s social calendar, welcoming thousands to greet the president. This grand tradition began in 1801 with John Adams and continued until Herbert Hoover hosted the last reception in 1932. At the peak in the early 1900s, over 8,000 guests would line up to shake hands with President Roosevelt and his family, a stark contrast to today's more private presidential celebrations. Well, President Joe Biden and his family left St. Croix in the Virgin Islands today to return to his home in Delaware. The president posting on X a photo of himself smiling, walking outside the White House with the caption, "Here's to all that lies ahead in 2025. And President-elect Donald Trump is hosting his annual New Year's Eve gala at his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida. A few days ago, he posted on X that Mar-a-Lago was the center of the universe and New Year's Eve is going to be amazing. The word amazing in all caps. One place you can experience New Year's Eve over and over and over again is space, and 2 U.S. astronauts put up this video today.
Well, Happy New Year from the International Space Station. Butch Wilmore, Don Pettit. We'll get to go around the planet here every 90 minutes, so we'll get 16 New Year celebrations here on the International Space Station.
And while we're on the International Space Station, we're separated from our families, we're separated from our friends, but we have our crew here, and they become our Erzat family.
So we'd love to be there with you in Times Square to watch the ball drop. We have our own ball, but since it doesn't drop, it just kind of stays in place. We look forward to midnight Eastern time there in Times Square, and we'll be there virtually with you. So from the International Space Station,
Happy New Year!
Astronauts Butch Wilmore and Don Pettit aboard the space station posting that video. Back on Earth, the first major city to celebrate the new year is Auckland, New Zealand, right next to the international date line. That's 18 hours before the New York Times Square ball drop. Not far behind is Sydney, Australia. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese put up a New Year's message during which he called his country the best in the world.
As we look forward to a new year, we look back on the challenges we've faced here and around the world, and also the progress that we've made. Inflation is down, wages are moving again, and our tax cuts for every taxpayer, energy bill relief, cheaper medicines and cheaper childcare have helped. But we know there's more to do. We know that in navigating the rough seas, we must always keep our eyes on the horizon. That's why we're strengthening Medicare by opening urgent care clinics across the country and expanding bulk billing. We're building 1.2 million homes, the largest house build in Australian history. We're cutting HECS debt by 20% and making free take permanent. We are lucky to live in the greatest country in the world. By working together, we can build Australia's future to be even stronger. I want to wish everyone all the best for a safe, happy and prosperous 2025. Happy New Year, Australia.
The Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese in that video. This from Reuters. No one can stop China's reunification with Taiwan, Chinese President Xi Jinping said in his New Year's speech on Tuesday, laying down a clear warning to what Beijing regards as pro-independence forces within and outside of the island of 23 million people. President Xi said in the speech televised on China's state broadcaster, CCTV, the people on both sides of the Taiwan Strait are one family. No one can sever our family bonds, and no one can stop the historical trend of national reunification. And from the Moscow Times, President Vladimir Putin praised his country's achievements in a New Year's Eve speech Tuesday, saying Russians should be proud of what Russia had done during his quarter century in power. The address delivered exactly 25 years after he took over from his predecessor, Boris Yeltsin, did not explicitly mention the war in Ukraine and focused mostly on wishes for the year ahead. He also praised Russian soldiers, a theme echoed in his previous New Year's addresses since his full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. That was from the Moscow Times. And AP writes that Chancellor Olaf Scholz called on Germany's 84 million residents to stick together despite the many global crises and wars, the country's ailing economy, and a deadly Christmas market attack that shocked the nation. Ahead of a February 23rd general election, Scholz called on Germans to go vote and took a swipe at tech entrepreneur Elon Musk, who twice this month called on people to choose the far-right Alternative for Germany party. Scholz said, "You, the citizens, decide what happens in Germany. It's not up to the owners of social media." That was from Associated Press. Dr. Tedros, the Director General of the World Health Organization, also put out a New Year's video message. In it, he talks about his recent brush with death. He was at the airport in Yemen's capital city when Israel attacked in response to Houthi militants attacking Israel.
During Christmas week, I was in Yemen on a United Nations mission to negotiate with the country's de facto authorities for the release of detained UN staff and other humanitarians. The talks with the Houthis proceeded positively, and we hope they will bear fruit. While waiting to board our flight in Sana'a, the airport came under aerial bombardment by Israel. The attack inflicted needless death, injury, panic, chaos, and damage, and was another reminder of the growing threat faced by civilians, humanitarians, and health workers in war zones around the world. These must stop. With a new year upon us, our leaders must bring desperately needed peace to the world and health and safety to all. Peace and health are linked. From Gaza to Sudan, Yemen to Ukraine, and Haiti and beyond, peace is and will always be the best medicine for the health and well-being of all people everywhere. For the World Health Organization, Health for All is our guiding light. We pursue this mission often by working in dangerous places. We do this to protect and promote people's health. We go the extra mile. Some achievements of the past year include eliminating malaria and other neglected diseases in numerous countries, 17 countries from Africa using a new malaria vaccine, making a new vaccine against dengue, celebrating 154 million lives saved thanks to the expanded program of immunization founded 50 years ago, making the world safer from outbreaks and pandemics by strengthening the international health regulations, certifying the first mpox vaccines and tests, reducing tobacco use globally, and opening the game-changing WHO Academy in Lyon with French President Emmanuel Macron. But bolstering global health security to protect against future outbreaks will require more work in 2025. These actions and more will help make our families, communities, and whole world healthier and safer. To succeed in this vital quest, we must invest in essential measures to promote and protect health. We will continue working to advance health for all, including the health of children and especially mothers, who will be the focus of World Health Day 2025 on the 7th of April, which also marks WHO's 77th birthday. Let us not miss the opportunity the coming new year offers us. Please let us turn the page on conflict, chart a new path to achieve lasting peace, and secure a healthy and prosperous future for all.
Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, Director General of the World Health Organization, in a New Year's Eve video. In Washington, D.C., the House of Representatives met briefly for a pro forma session, no legislative business conducted, but during which Congressman Jeff Jackson, Democrat of North Carolina, resigned. He says in a video that it's because he'll be sworn in on New Year's Day as North Carolina Attorney General. He also talks about civility in politics.
I hereby resign. Effective midnight tonight, I will no longer be a member of Congress. I'm resigning 3 days before the end of my term because, according to the North Carolina Constitution, the Attorney General assumes office on January 1st. But according to the U.S. Constitution, my term as a congressman doesn't end until January 3rd. So to avoid the 3-day overlap and make sure I'm not getting paid by those two jobs at the same time, I'm resigning a few days early from my term in Congress. As a parting thought, I just want to say that you and I together accomplished something pretty significant. What you proved by watching these videos is that there really is a demand for doing politics in what I call a normal tone of voice. Millions of you tuned in every week for an update that wasn't angry, wasn't super partisan, and was just trying to give you a real sense of what life is like in Congress. And nobody thought this many people would start watching. I didn't. Because what you're taught as a candidate is the only way to get people's attention is to make them angry. So a lot of political communication exists just to do that, which is why so many of the politicians you think are really angry are really just faking. They have an incentive to pretend to be angry in order to gain your attention. What you all proved by watching these videos is that there's another path. You can just talk like a normal person and tell people what you're doing and why it's interesting, and they'll listen. You don't need the theatrics, you don't need the anger, you just need to be yourself and try hard to do a good job. It's really simple, but it works. Tomorrow, I'll take the oath to become Attorney General, and my plan is to approach the communication side of the job in the exact same way. So when something happens that is important and interesting, I'm going to turn on this camera and tell you about it. And I can't say this part strongly enough. It has been an absolute honor to serve in Congress and to keep you posted. And I will see you soon. Take care.
Congressman Jeff Jackson, Democrat from North Carolina, in a video. Washington Examiner article about his resignation reads, Jackson defeated fellow Congressman Dan Bishop, Republican of North Carolina, in an expensive general election on November 5th. The incoming Attorney General, who is an Afghan war veteran and National Guard attorney, will succeed Governor-elect Josh Stein, Democrat of North Carolina, who held the Attorney General position for 2 terms. Republicans picked up Jackson's seat in the 2024 election, with Congressman-elect Tim Moore preparing to be sworn in the 119th Congress on Friday, along with his fellow new members. That Washington Examiner article also has this paragraph about the new Congress. With swearing in on January 3rd, the House is also scheduled to elect the Speaker. President-elect Donald Trump has endorsed Speaker Mike Johnson for another term, but some House Republican lawmakers are undecided on whether to support the Speaker after a failed bipartisan deal to subvert a government shutdown drew Republican scrutiny, forcing a new government spending bill to be drafted and passed just before Christmas. Again, that was from the Washington Examiner. Congressman Chip Roy, Republican of Texas, told Fox Business Channel today that he does not think Speaker Johnson has the necessary votes to continue as Speaker, and that is a majority of the voting members of the House, 218 votes, when there will only be 219 House Republicans available to cast ballots.
I remain undecided, as do a number of my colleagues, because we saw so many of the failures last year that we are concerned about that might limit or inhibit our ability to advance the president's agenda. I respect, like Thomas, that President Trump supports Mike. I like Mike. He's a good friend. But let's consider what happened the week before Christmas. We violated the 72-hour rule twice, which means we didn't have time to read a bill. We had to have Elon and Vivek and the president and JD come in to kill a 1,500-page monstrosity, cut it down to 100 pages. It still spent $110 billion unpaid for. And do my colleagues say, oh, but that's all just discretionary spending? We also passed $200 billion that is taking money out of Social Security to transfer it, which will hasten the bankruptcy of Social Security by 6 months. That was all the week before Christmas, Ashley. That's a problem. That's not how we should do business. We racked up $300 billion of additional deficit spending after the election. We spent $1.7 trillion last year with more Democrat votes than Republican votes. We gave another $61 billion to Ukraine. My friend Victoria, she's from Ukraine. She has a heart for the Ukrainians, but she understands giving $61 billion to Ukraine after Mike Johnson promised to secure the border first, that's a problem. So we need to have a plan before January 3rd. The Speaker needs to speak to it if he wants to have all of our support.
Yeah, and I have to follow up at this point, Congressman. Does he have that support or not?
Yeah, right now I don't believe that he has the votes on Friday, and I think we need to have the conference get together so that we can get united. And people say, well, Chip, who would you choose otherwise? There are a lot of great members of Congress. Mike's a friend, and maybe he can answer the call and he can deliver an agenda and a plan. Byron Donalds is a good man and a good friend. I supported him. I nominated him 2 years ago. Jim Jordan's a good man and a good friend. There are other members of leadership in the conference who could do the job. But what we need to do is unite around a plan to deliver for the president. Right now, I do not believe the conference has that. The failure before Christmas, I cannot overstate, is a glimpse to come if we don't organize the conference to be able to deliver for the American people. We are not going to be able to bend on the things that matter. We must cut spending if you want inflation to go down and for people to afford to live in this country. We have to secure the border. We can't be going back and forth on that. We have to give the tools, Tom Homan, the president, Stephen Miller, to secure the border. And we've got to have the plans in place by Friday.
Congressman Chip Roy, Republican from Texas, on Fox Business Channel today. House Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican from Louisiana, was on Fox News last night.
I'm really humbled and honored to have President Trump's endorsement for Speaker again. He and I work so well together, so closely together, and we have a lot of big things to do. He recognizes that what we need right now, I think my colleagues recognize this as well, is a proven fighter and a true MAGA conservative, but also someone who can work with every single member of our very diverse House GOP so that we can get President Trump's priorities over the line. That's what's ahead of us. I think this could be the most consequential presidency and Congress of the modern era, because we have to fix everything, and it has to start on day one, so we can't waste any time.
House Speaker Mike Johnson on Fox News Monday night. Congressman Thomas Massie, Republican from Kentucky, has said he is a pretty firm no on voting to allow Speaker Johnson to continue in that office when the new Congress convenes on Friday. A News Nation article about other House Republicans who are not committed to Speaker Johnson include Rich McCormick of Georgia, Andy Harris of Maryland, Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, Andy Biggs of Kentucky, Victoria Spartz of Indiana, and the Speaker can only afford to lose 2 out of those. Congressman Scott Desjardins, Republican from Tennessee, interviewed today on WWTN radio in Nashville about the possibility of a prolonged election battle for Speaker.
We, of course, 2 years ago had Kevin McCarthy, went 15 rounds, 4 days, absolutely ridiculous. This time we got a slimmer margin. We're going to have 219 because Matt Gaetz is gone, so we can really only lose one person, and Tom Massie has vowed not to vote for him. And I think Victoria Spartz, who has also indicated she might not or might vote present, is going to change things. We can really only lose one person. We could have one person vote present and lose one person and still get there. But this is where President Trump needs to come in and get these people lined up and tell him, hey, let's get off to a great start here. We don't need to have a circus. We got a lot of work to do. People elected him with the popular vote, pretty much kind of a landslide, a mandate, in my opinion. We got the Senate. We have a slim majority in the House, and if we can't learn to work together in the House in a big hurry, that's on us. And so pretty important that we get this done.
Congressman Scott Desjardins, Republican from Tennessee, on WWTN Radio in Nashville. This is Washington Today. When the Senate convenes on Friday, there'll be a new majority leader, Republican John Thune of South Dakota, replacing, as the Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, who is stepping down as party leader after a record 17 years in that position. He does plan to continue serving as senator for the last 2 years of his term. On Wednesday, New Year's Day, 8 p.m. Eastern, C-SPAN will be exploring the life and work of Senator McConnell, hearing from him over the decades from the C-SPAN archives about the job as party leader, Supreme Court, campaign finance, immigration, and the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. We'll be joined by Michael Tackett, Deputy Washington, D.C. Bureau Chief for the Associated Press and author of a new McConnell biography titled The Price of Power, How Mitch McConnell Mastered the Senate, Changed America, and Lost His Party. Here's a minute of the interview with Michael Tackett.
Michael Tackett, you write in the book that Senator McConnell is the most impactful Senate leader since LBJ. Why?
Well, I think you could draw a straight line between some of his decisions and the effect on the country. By blocking Merrick Garland from the Supreme Court, then by engineering the confirmations of 3 Supreme Court justices, you could draw a straight line between that and the elimination of Roe versus Wade, the elimination of affirmative action, and the elimination of the Chevron decision. Those are 3 pretty sturdy legs of a stool that say he had a huge impact.
And changed America, as your title says.
Absolutely. I mean, America's a different place because of his leadership.
You also write in the book that since he came to the Senate in 1985, it has been his life, the institution. What did you mean?
He lives in a rather hermetic world where he doesn't live very far from the Capitol, and he has a security detail that takes him from his house to the office. So it's a short journey. He spends a lot of time in the well of the Senate, talking to members, giving his speeches, and then he goes home frequently to Louisville on the weekends. But those are like the 3 corners of his world, and he doesn't vary from that very often.
So the decision to then leave this post, if it's your life, how did he come to it?
Well, I think he summed it up pretty nicely in his farewell address. I mean, there were competing things. One was the politics of the moment were shifting. 2 was it was important to know when to step down. And the third thing was, as he said, was Father Time remains undefeated. And that was an acknowledgement of his age.
Michael Tackett, journalist and author of a new biography on Senator Mitch McConnell, part of the C-SPAN extensive look at the career of Senator Mitch McConnell that airs Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern on C-SPAN Radio and C-SPAN Television. You can follow it anywhere on the C-SPAN Now mobile app. We'll also have a lot of archival material from Senator McConnell on various issues. Again, that's Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. With Senator John Thune elected as the new majority leader and the next Congress begins Friday, he'll be leaving the whip spot for the Republicans, and then Senator John Barrasso, Republican of Wyoming, has been elected to replace him. He'll be majority whip. Senator Barrasso leaves the Republican conference chair spot, and Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas has been elected to that position. Senator Cotton was on the Hugh Hewitt radio show talking about what to expect in the new Congress. One of the questions was about judgeships. Senator Mark Warner, Democrat of Virginia, posting on X on Monday, in case you missed it, we surpassed President Trump's record and confirmed 235 highly qualified judges under the Biden-Harris administration, including several for Virginia. Thrilled we got the Senate to work efficiently, putting brilliant jurists on the bench. That was from Senator Warner. Here is Senator Cotton.
Yesterday, they gloated about the fact he had passed the total number of judges that Donald Trump did. That's because of a deal that Leader McConnell did that allowed the Democrats to appoint 12 Democratic judges at the district court level in exchange for not pushing forward with 5 circuit court judges, one of whom withdrew their retirement. So I would make that deal every day. Senator, would you? 4 circuits for 12 district courts?
A few observations about this, Hugh. I guess Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer can get all excited, spiking the football, that they got one more judge confirmed than did Donald Trump in his first term. But I have to ask them, they do realize what's about to happen, correct? On January 20th. I mean, I can confidently predict that Donald Trump will go into presidential retirement having appointed many more judges than Joe Biden will. I can confidently predict that. Second, as you point out, they have many more district judge, the trial judge nominees. Those are very important. Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer ushered in a lot of left-wing ideologues onto the district courts. I am saddened for the people of states like California and Illinois and New York that they're going to have to deal with all those ideologues on the district courts. But district judges do not make precedent. They do not bind their peers or any other courts in the land. That's in contrast, as you say, to the courts of appeals, where Donald Trump's record is stronger with more judges appointed. Those are the second most important courts after the Supreme Court. Furthermore, if you look at the judges that Donald Trump appointed versus Joe Biden appointed, Donald Trump appointed many more judges that were filling previously held by democratically appointed judges than Joe Biden appointed judges that were replacing Republican appointed judges. So the shift in the Court of Appeals is much more significant for President Trump than it has been for Joe Biden.
Senator Tom Cotton, Republican of Arkansas, the incoming Republican conference chair, third in line in leadership, interviewed today on the Hugh Hewitt radio show. President-elect Donald Trump writing on Truth Social today, "We just won a historic landslide and mandate from the American people, but Senate Democrats are organizing to improperly stall and delay the confirmation process of many of our great nominees. They will try all sorts of tricks starting very soon. Republicans must not allow them to do that. We have a country to run and many big problems to solve, mostly created by Democrats. Republicans, be smart and tough." That post from President-elect Donald Trump referring to his cabinet nominees. As the year comes to a close, C-SPAN has put together a Year in Review compilation. It runs 5 minutes.
2024 was a momentous year for C-SPAN. From continuing our decades-old tradition of providing gavel-to-gavel coverage of the House and Senate, to key committee hearings and press conferences,
good afternoon, everyone,
to landmark Supreme Court cases, and to a historic presidential election, including both the Republican and Democratic national conventions. Here's a look back on the year as we prepare for what's expected to be an action-packed 2025.
What kind of crack do you normally smoke, Mr. Biden? Let me start again.
My name is Jason D. Ford, but to most I am known as Jelly Roll.
My name is Brett Favre.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
My name is Michael Phelps.
My name is Shou Chu, and I'm the CEO of TikTok.
Have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now?
Well,
they're here. You're on national television. Would you like now to apologize to the victims?
Tonight, all eyes are on Iowa.
I am today suspending my campaign.
The New Hampshire primary.
But the time has now come to suspend my campaign.
The events were shameful, criminal, violent, all of those things, but it did not qualify as insurrection.
This will be my last term as Republican leader of the Senate.
Isn't how old we are. It's how old are our ideas.
It's one of the reasons why this program is so valuable, because it does bring people together.
Without presidential immunity from criminal prosecution, there can be no presidency as we know it.
The Republican-led House will not be jammed or forced into passing a foreign aid bill. I think providing lethal aid to Ukraine right now is critically important.
On this vote, the ayes are 311 and the nays are 112. The bill is passed.
Declaring the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives to be vacant.
The yeas are 359, the nays are 43, with 7 answering present.
Hopefully, this is the end of the personality politics.
Tonight, this event is being televised live on C-SPAN.
For the next 90 minutes, we are going to be live from a brand new exhibition.
Welcome to the National Book Festival.
What's so great about C-SPAN is that you hit every side.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th.
We'd be well served to remember the long and cherished tradition we have in this country of settling our political differences at the ballot box.
Today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what the president can do. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
It was a bad night.
They're trying to push me out of the race. I'm staying in the race.
Take a look at what happened.
I want to speak to you tonight about the need for us to lower the temperature in our politics.
The most significant operational failure of the Secret Service in decades.
I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States.
I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation.
Just over 100 days before an election, Democrat Party bosses forced Joe Biden off the ballot.
There's the right to protest, but not the right to cause chaos. No place in America for anti-Semitism.
Give us the tools faster, and we'll finish the job faster.
We are here tonight to officially nominate Kamala Harris.
I accept your nomination to be President of the United States.
And you know what that means? A C-SPAN don't play.
Wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out, never touched
by a human hand.
Certainly falls into the general definition of fascists.
That's a good-looking group. Hello, everybody.
There's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Thanks for being with us on election night.
Look what happened. Is this crazy? This will truly be the golden age of America.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted.
And House Democrats have fallen a few seats short.
We are going to raise an America First banner above this place.
The American people have spoken.
It's a new day in the United States Senate, and it's a new day in America.
Politics is tough, and it's in many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate very much a transition that's so smooth. It'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Joe.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
C-SPAN 2024 Year in Review. You heard the audio. There's also video as well. You can find it at cspan.org and on the free C-SPAN Now mobile app. On Wall Street, CNBC writes stocks closed lower on Tuesday as investors wrapped up another booming year that hoisted the S&P 500 to its second consecutive annual gain exceeding 20%, spurred by enthusiasm for rate cuts, economic strength, and artificial intelligence. Today, though, the Dow was down 29, NASDAQ down 175, S&P down 25. Before we go, a couple more headlines from Associated Press. A blackout hit nearly all of Puerto Rico early Tuesday as the U.S. territory prepared to celebrate New Year's, leaving more than 1.3 million clients in the dark. Officials said it could take up to 2 days to restore power. Congressman Richie Torres, Democrat from New York, posting on his personal X account, Puerto Rico is a colony of the United States, and its failing grid is a symptom of its second-class status. And a military appeals court has ruled against Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's effort to throw out the plea deals reached for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the two other defendants in the 9/11 attack. A U.S. official said the decision puts back on track the agreements that would have the three men plead guilty to one of the deadliest attacks on the United States in exchange for being spared the possibility of the death penalty. In a story from the Washington Post, the Treasury Department announced new sanctions Tuesday on Iranian and Russian entities accused of trying to interfere with the U.S. 2024 elections, including by allegedly using artificial intelligence to disseminate false information. Thanks for listening to Washington Today. Sign up for C-SPAN's free evening newsletter Word for Word and get the stories making headlines in Washington emailed to you every day. You can subscribe at cspan.org/connect. A note, there will not be a Washington Today program on New Year's Day. For now, have a good night and Happy New Year.